All right, welcome friends. So it looks like they have decided to add another gem summon challenge. This time around, they went with 10 gems, which, 10 summons from gems. I think it was actually a pretty nice choice on their behalf. Some people in the community have been saying that they wish that this was a more exciting poll, but seeing as though we just went through the Harvest Summon, and I feel like the majority of players are going to be on the lower end of the gem pool, I think it was fairly kind of them to choose to go with only 10 summons in order to participate in this, especially with portals up for 2,600 gems. We are going to basically see a guaranteed 5-star out of this portal for as low as 2,600 gems. So the real question then becomes, is there still value in this? Like, what is it that they're offering us this time around? And should we consider spending our hard-earned gems for these? So we'll take a closer look. I do have a graphic here showing all the available options. So if you haven't figured it out, the top row is all ninjas. And then the bottom row is going to be Season 3s, but they are with costumes, which is nice. You know, it's good to have the costume. It does make them a little bit more relevant. Season 3 is a little bit older, but they did include some real good ones in here, which we'll go into a little bit more detail on. So I will start off and say that I think overall as a portal, this is a pretty good one for having a 10 pull buy-in. Like, there are definitely other portals that have been out with more interesting characters. I won't argue that at all. But what I am saying is that when I look at these characters, I think they can add value to people's rosters for the most part, and the buy-in is relatively low. So let's go into it and take a closer look at each individual character. But if you're asking if I think this portal's worth it, I would say yes, I do think that. All right. So we'll start things out with our good friend here, Malum. Malum is going to be a ninja, one of the more recent ninjas. Worth noting, the CP at the top here is not going to be accurate. I am pulling these pictures off of the website, which doesn't necessarily give max CP. You will be able to see your max CP when the gem challenge portal comes up, so that will give you a better idea of where people are actually at right now. But just understand that the newer ninjas, this one included, should be somewhere around the 1450 to 1460 range. So they are still pretty viable depth for people's rosters. This one, of course, is a rogue class. Malum, and according to this, says that he is going to have 3 different effects. Most of them will. They'll tier up as they go. First one is going to reduce the max health of the target and nearby enemies by 400. This effect is stronger against targets with boosted health. It also deals 250% damage to the target and nearby enemies. So this guy is going to be a health reducer. One thing that's cool is he does the health reduction first, and then he does the damage, so it's a nice way to try to lower their health and then possibly get the kill shot in. He does hit 3 targets. He's a Reaper type effect. And then on his second tier, it says he reduces the max health by 500 and deals 375% to the target and nearby enemies, but then they also include the fact that this attack will bypass defensive buffs. So you don't have to worry about counterattack or reflex or anything like that as long as you get to the second tier, which is pretty cool. And then at the third tier, it says that he's going to reduce the max health of the target and nearby enemies by 600. This is, and the effect is strong against boosted health, etc. Deals 500% damage to the target and nearby enemies, and the attack bypasses defensive buffs again. And on top of that, it also says the target and nearby enemies resist healing and receive 350 damage per each resisted healing attempt for 6 turns. So if you can get this guy up to the third tier, he's going to absolutely devastate the 3 targets that he hits, reducing their max health by 600, 500% hit damage to all of them, bypassing defensive buffs, and then stopping all healing for 6 turns following that. So pretty cool character. I definitely like him. Oh, whoops, wrong direction, sorry. This one up is going to be a green ninja Chikao. Again, 3-tier effect. It's going to be the monk class, so a little bit better on the resists in this case. Chikao is going to have the 3 tiers. The first one starts off with dispel buffs from the enemies on the edges of the formation. So this guy looks like he's going to be a hit the edge formation character. And he also deals 300% damage to enemies on the outer edge of the formation. If there's only one enemy, the damage is doubled. The enemies on the edge of the formation fall asleep and receive plus 60% increased damage while sleeping. So yes, he does hit the outer edges. He's going to put them asleep as well. Kind of a fun ability. Now, if you get to the second tier, he's going to go up to 485% damage. And then he's also going to leave them asleep, but they'll take 80% increased damage from the sleep version. And last but not least, it says dispels the buffs from the enemies on the outer edge, deals 900% damage to the enemies on the outer edge of the formation, and then enemies on the outer edge fall asleep, but they take 100% increased damage on their next hit. So this guy is very good at just basically slicing the outer edges, putting them asleep. Ideally, if you play your cards right, they can stay asleep for the following turn, leaving them somewhat CC'd, and, can help you kind of control the rest of the board. I do like him as well, but he's probably a little bit harder to use than some of the other ninjas. You need to plan around his sleep effects, but he is still a fun ninja to have. All right. Sorry, next up again. Oniwakamaru. Yeah, interesting name. This character is the oldest one in here, and it's going to look unimpressive stats-wise, which you'll notice when you can see the full CP versions, which you'll be able to look at later. However, one thing I will say is that this ninja's special ability is very unique, and perhaps one of the coolest effects in the game, and I will explain why. So let's go into it. At first tier, he's going to boost the health of the caster by 390 HP. The caster gets Taunt that prevents enemies from attacking allies with special skills for 2 turns. This effect can't be dispelled. The target counterattacks with 50% of the damage received for 2 turns. Okay, so what makes him so cool is the fact that his taunt that he is putting up is undispellable. To my knowledge, he might be the only undispellable taunt in the entire game. Furthermore, this guy will be operating at very fast speed for his first cast of his special. So understand that, like, this guy's an amazing counter to things like Bernadette. Bernadette may do her priority cleanse, her priority dispel, which really messes with most defenses against her, but his is undispellable. So his taunt is going to protect the rest of your team from being turned into paintings. Yes, he can still be turned into a painting, but he does provide that protection. And he also does it very quickly. He operates at very fast speed, so there's pretty much a 100% chance, well, nothing's 100%, but almost 100% chance that you will have him ready to go before Bernadette goes off at very slow. Or at slow, sorry. No, she is very slow. Anyway, moving on. Then second tier, of course, this guy's boosting more health. He's going to increase the duration of his taunt for an additional turn, as well as counterattack damage goes up. And again, the final tier is increasing taunt to 4 turns instead, and the counterattack damage goes up even more. All right, next up, we've got Iga. Iga's a very interesting one. One thing I want to point out about this one, again, it's a 3-tiered ninja. Cleric class gives nice protection against mana reductions, etc. And then in the special, this guy is a Fiend Summoner. First tier, you probably don't want to do that often. I would definitely want to save up for more, but the first tier is going to summon a Fiend to 1 target. It is going to hit for 150% of attack, and it will be cleared when 45% of the owner's health has been healed. If they do not clear it in time, this explodes after 3 turns, dealing 1850 damage to its target. That's crazy. That's a lot of damage. So if you don't clear these fiends off, you're taking a lot of damage. Plus, as general fiends go, these are very high attack stats. 150% attack is much higher than you see off of normal fiend, so that's pretty cool too. On the second tier, it's going to summon a fiend for the target nearby enemies that hits for 175% attack, absorbs up to 50% health, and then can explode for 2,000 damage if it's not cleared within 3 turns. Now we're getting into crazier departments. And finally, the last one is going to summon a fiend for all enemies that deals 200% attack. It's going to absorb healing up to 55%, and if you don't clear them in 3 turns, it does 2250 damage to all enemies. That's bonkers. It is just bonkers. You will be surprised how much damage this guy can put out. Plus, his fiends are slowing down healing and various other things. He's a great ninja. All right, finally, we have Umiko. Umiko, for the ninjas, she's a very interesting character. She doesn't do a lot of damage directly up front, as we'll see here, but one thing that's important about her is she is a priority dispeller, which we love, okay? So at the first tier is going to priority dispel, then the target receives 780 poison damage over 2 turns, and the target gets negative 80% decreased any healing for 2 turns. And much like the other ones, at the second tier, you're going to see that this is going to affect, instead of just a single target nearby. They take more poison damage. In fact, it's 1608, so that's a much higher increase. You definitely want to try to save up for the second and third tiers if you can here as well. And negative 85% decrease to healing. And then finally, in the last one, it dispels from all enemies. They receive 2412 poison damage over 6 turns, and get negative 90% to healing. That's bonkers. I mean, that's just a lot of poison damage, and the 90% decrease to healing. Fun ninja. Priority dispellers are always good, so don't underestimate what she can do for your team. All right, that handles our ninjas. So let's go into our Season 3 costumes here. Look, I understand this is nowhere near as exciting as maybe the ninjas, but you have to understand that some Season 3 characters are still incredibly viable. This gentleman right here, Lord Loki, is a perfect example of this. Lord Loki is possibly one of the very best characters in the entire game. He has a forever skill because his skill copies your opponent's special skills, which means no matter what, he's going to constantly be able to match whatever new special skills your opponents have from now until the end of time. That will be his potential. And this is what makes him so interesting and why everybody really should strive to try it to get a Loki at some point if they can. I definitely recommend double limit breaking them too to make them as viable as possible. It's just a character that will never ever work its way out of your roster as long as they continue to keep his costume stats relevant. So, as a reminder of what this guy does, he copies all dispellable buffs from the target. He copies the target's special skill and uses it in addition to the caster's own special skill. If the target does not have a special skill or cannot be copied, the following special skill is cast. Deal 265% damage to the target. Now, that special skill is boring, but copying their special skills, absolutely amazing. You should be so happy if you pull this guy and you didn't have him in your roster. I promise you it's 100% worth it. All right, next up we have Heimdall. Heimdall, again, getting a little bit older, maybe not as exciting as some of the newer Resurrectors that are out, but Heimdall should not be underestimated as a Resurrector. Especially in rush battles, you will make use of this guy. He has a 50% chance that all fallen allies are revived with 20% HP. The allies get plus 50% attack for 4 turns, and all allies regenerate 672 boosted health over 4 turns. Now, these stats might be a little bit outdated. I did pull all these pictures off the website. I think they increased how much healing he does a little bit. I don't remember exactly if that's true, but I thought that was the case. Regardless, Heimdall is still one of the better Resurrectors in the game. He could fulfill that role for you if you don't have a Resurrector in your roster. He will do a pretty good job. So, don't underestimate Heimdall for that particular unique utility. All right, then we get ourselves to Freya. Freya, this is where things start getting to drop off a little bit. I don't think Freya has as much utility as some of the other Season 3 costumes, but what she does do is summons minions for all allies with 25% HP and 15% attack inherited from the caster. They also give 180% attack to all of the owner's other minions as well. All allies get plus 36% chance to dodge special skills that deal damage for 4 turns. So she is a dodge character, and she buffs up other minions with plus 180% attack. This doesn't really matter so much for hers, but let's say you pair her with some of the Three Kingdoms minion maker costumes and stuff like that, some of the more beefier minions out there that are doing maybe 50% attack. Well, plus 180% attack to all of them would make those hits much stronger, and she'd be just a fun character to pair with other minion makers. All right, finally, well, nope, not finally, there's 2 more. We have Sif. Sif is going to be a great character as well, but for different reasons. She doesn't do any damage or healing directly herself, but what she does do is increase the mana of the caster and nearby allies by 15%, which is pretty cool. And then they counterattack for 125% of the damage received for 4 turns. I always love counterattacking for more damage than received. And the caster and nearby allies reduce the received damage by 40% for 4 turns. So she is a very strong utility character. When you get the combination of counterattack and damage reduction, that's a very strong way to counterbalance a fight, because you're basically using their own power against them, but you're reducing the amount that you take and you're reflecting back more than they actually do, so it really creates a mismatch in the amount of damage that's being dished out. She could be very interesting. Don't underestimate Sif's potential to help one of your teams. All right, and last but not least, we have Elfrike. Elfrike, she used to really shine as one of the very best options out there to use, but as time goes on, her stats have fallen off. It's much harder to use her nowadays because she just dies too quickly, operating at very slow. But in rush battles, she's still going to be a heck of a lot of fun. So a reminder of what she does: she deals 240% damage to hit targets, casts 5 dark cubes to random enemies. Dark cubes reduce the max health of the target by 184. The effect is stronger against targets with boosted health. Enemies hit automatically cast mindless attack on a random enemy when their mana is full during the next 3 turns. So 5 random cubes means there are times where she could actually cast mindless attack on an entire opposing team. Not likely, but that could happen. Either way, she's usually putting out, let's just say on average, 3 mindless attacks, operating at very slow. So that's why I said it's a little bit hard in most formats, but in Rush, she is still going to be incredibly helpful for you. So if you pull her, honestly, she might still be worth it. Just to help you with those rush battles. All right, so that pretty much covers the characters. Just a reminder of what we're looking at. This is a 10 pull gem challenge. And currently with the Moth portal being in place, which is probably the portal I would recommend pulling from, that's a 2,600 gem buy-in. That's really not that bad. And there are some pretty solid characters here. These are the types of characters that are going to well round out your roster in some way or another. I understand if you're really high-end, they might not seem that interesting to you, but if you're really high-end, you're probably fine doing a 10 pull anyways. So I'm guessing you're getting one, and I wish you the best of luck in getting something at least interesting to increase your roster. All right, everyone, that's it. I hope you had fun with the video, and we will catch you next time.